Take these glasses off. See. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the latest sound with Wonder Lowe. This is actually a special edition, that we normally are on every Tuesday night at 7 p.m., but we're living in a time where it's very important that we get some extra information about voting. So we have a very special guest today, and her name is Terri Hollingsworth. She is the County Clerk of Pulaski Circuit and County Clerk of Pulaski County here in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I want to welcome her, and we're not going to do a big opening today. I just want to make sure that if you have time to tune in, that you do. This will be a very informational broadcast today. We want to make sure that you know enough information about voting, absentee voting, local voting places, where you can get, if you need some help at the polls, or if there's anything else going on. We're going to learn all that good stuff today. So, Ms. Terri, welcome again to the Ladies Lounge. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Wanda. It's always great to be here to not only to talk to the voters about voting, but just to be here with you about any special topic. So thank you so much.
Oh, no problem at all. I'm going to read just a little bit of your introduction, and then if you want to add anything to that, then you can, and then we're going to move into our topics for today, okay?
Well, okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can talk about my role as the clerk. You don't have to read the introduction if you don't want to.
No, go ahead. I want you to have as much time as you need.
Right. So as you stated, I am the county clerk and I'm the circuit clerk. And so that's Pulaski County is one of 18 counties that have that dual role for the clerk. So that means that I am the voter registrar for the county. I'm the chief election official for the county. I'm the real estate recorder for the county. I'm the clerk of the quorum court. My staff and I support 17 circuit judges. So even those judges that folks are voting for this time around, because it's the runoff, some of those folks will, or whoever wins, will become judges in part of our circuit here in Pulaski County. And so I just wanted to make sure that folks understand that. I also want folks to understand the role that may be a little different between, even though I'm the chief election official, I deal mostly with absentee voting, and certainly I store the voter registration information that you have. But when it comes to early voting and election day, those responsibilities are under the election commission. So I just want to make sure folks kind of understand that, because I know there's some issues going on. Not that I can't speak to some of them, but certainly people need to understand that I don't have any control to make some changes.
Well, that's still good to know. We just need to know that much. Okay, so I appreciate you telling us about your role that you as a clerk. Now, talk a little bit. I'll tell you what. You tell me what you can talk about. It'll be easier that way. I'll just listen. You tell me what we can talk about, and what you think that people ought to know about this particular election and how they need to go about it.
Well, let's talk about the importance, and I know you can speak to that in terms of the importance of voting. Remember, we had protests this summer, especially about some things that were happening around. So this is the part of where they can take their voice from the streets where they were protesting to actually to the ballot box, to folks who have the same kind of values as they do in terms of putting them in the Arkansas State House, whether it's Arkansas Senate or Arkansas State Representative. Put them into that particular spot, and also this is a time to be able to vote on somebody who's going to go to Congress for us and who's actually going to have the values that we need in order to change some laws and change the way some of the things that happen. So this is your voice. This is the way the system is at this point. So the folks that are out there who haven't had a voice but want to change things quickly, things don't usually change that quickly as it relates to government, but this is your first step to having their voice and pushing that information to another level so that we can make some change.
Amen. Now, something we talked about on one of the other shows, I think I had Tony Orr and Kamara Seals on, and we were just talking about the importance of getting out and participating in all elections. Because I think people get kind of stuck in that mindset of, oh, it's a presidential election year, I only vote for the president. You need to be voting at every single level. Your local elections are probably the most important ones, because those are the ones that are going to immediately affect your life. And I'm talking about all the way down whoever's going to be on the school board, whoever's going to be your chief of police, who's your mayor, your alderman, your councilman, all of those things are very important because those effects are going to be immediate. You're going to feel those before you feel the federal.
You are exactly right. You're exactly right. And when they go to the polls today or tomorrow, during this election season, we want them to make sure they take their photo ID with them.
Yes.
We want them to make sure they take a chair if they need it. And understand that the rush times are like 8 o'clock in the morning and probably a lunchtime. Right now, there's probably nobody at the early voting locations. And so we certainly want to make sure that people can do that and make sure they pack on some patience, have a mindset of, I need to be patient.
Exactly.
And be determined to make sure you get your vote done when you go to those polling sites as well. Yeah.
Now, that's one of the things we did mention also earlier. Make sure you take you some bottled water, take you a snack. I saw people, I haven't been yet. My plan is to go in the morning. But seeing people in line that have their snacks, they have their lawn chairs, and they're patiently sitting there waiting their turn to go in and vote. That shows you the intensity and the seriousness of getting out. Because I don't think in all the years I've been voting since I was 18 and I'm 52. In all the years I've been voting, I've never seen lines as though I've seen in some of the pictures this year. I've never seen folks with chairs sitting in line waiting. I've never seen such intensity and so many people turn out to vote. So you are definitely right. We do have to be very, very, very patient because I think I saw somebody the other day saying they stood in line for 4 hours. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
People are
and I think that what it sounds like to me is what you're saying is that people are actually listening to some of the things that I've been saying. Take a chair with you, pack a lunch, get you some water, take your medicine before you actually go, because we don't want anybody falling out or anything like that. And so the other thing I want people to understand is they need to listen and follow the directions of the poll workers and the poll judge within the polling site. I was about to say booth, within the polling site. And also make sure that they take their time and read the directions. If they need some help, they can ask for help. All voters are allowed to be able to get some help, especially if they're looking for a candidate or candidates and they can't find or understand that, they can see their whole ballot. And if a person really wants to, because, during early voting, we vote electronically, but on election day, if they go to their polling site, it's paper. But anybody can go into those early voting sites and ask for a paper ballot and they can get it. So we want people to understand that they can do that and they can use it if that's a better way for them than to actually push the buttons.
That is good information to know because honestly, I didn't even know that. I thought you had to just go in and vote, on the little thing. Well, I must be thinking old school too, because I'm thinking about the little oval.
Right, and that's what you have to do. You have to color in the ovals if you do it by paper. But when you go into the early voting sites, of course, they give you a stylus, which you can push the buttons with, and then you can, be able to sign and stuff with, so it can be completely touchless in terms of your finger to the machine if you really want it to be.
Yeah, so that's good to know because you have some people that just feel more comfortable doing it that way rather than using an electronic device to do it. Okay.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Talk about a little bit about where some of the early voting sites are for Pulaski County.
So the early voting sites are in the usual places. If you guys remember, so down in Southwest Little Rock is at the D. Brown Library. And of course we have Pulaski Regional Building, which is downtown Little Rock, where it usually is. We've got the Terri Library, which is new, but that's here. The Fletcher Library, which is over by Forest Heights, that's new, but it's still in North Little Rock, Maumelle, Jacksonville, and Sherwood. There's only one location in each of those places. So it's the same locations we've had all the time, except now we have 12 because we've got one new one, which is the Terri Library out in West Little Rock. So same 12 locations, same 11 locations plus new one this time.
Okay. And what's the time frame?
So the time frame, of course, is from 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. And then we have 2 Saturdays that we can vote. So that's from 10 to 4. On this coming Saturday, which I think the date is October 24th. And then next week, Saturday, which is October 31st. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Halloween. So it's the last Saturday to vote in early voting. So yes, it's from 8 to 6 every day. And then on Saturdays, 10 to 4. And then the last day to early vote will be Monday, November 2nd. And they'll be open from 8 to 5 p.m. So that's going to be the change, is that they close at 5 p.m. on Monday. So same thing, if you have an absentee ballot that you're trying to bring back to the clerk, it has to be here by 5 p.m. on November 2nd, Monday, November 2nd.
Okay, great. That is good to know, because now, with all of us knowing those dates and those times, then we understand that we have time to get in and get the early voting out of the way. Because I'm one of those people, I hate going on election day. It is so hectic, and it's even more people because you have a certain amount of us. We last minute people, and if it means going at the very last second, that's what we're going to do. I hate that. I love early voting. It's just way easier to get in and get out and get it done and get it over with. So make sure that you're scheduling accordingly, because we have another whole full week, and then we have those Saturdays in there. So that's excellent. Now, I don't know whether you can, and you tell me if you can, talk about any of the issues that are on the ballot or anything else that you think we need to know.
So I can't talk about the issues on the ballot, namely because I haven't researched them a lot and I don't know anything about them, but because it's not a partisan issue with that, but I don't really know a lot. Now, one of the things that I am hearing is that folks are trying to find their candidate, and especially for their candidate for president.
Okay.
There are 12 candidates that ran for president, and folks are wondering, how is it that you have the person who's at the top, but you don't have the Democratic candidate that's right next to it? Well, what happens is candidates are in a candidate draw. And so they pick numbers, and that's how the number that you fall into where you're actually listed on the list. Okay. So that's how that happened. But people need to understand that, especially on the electronic voting, that when you go in, you need to push the more button if you're trying to find a specific candidate. And that way they can actually see the rest of the candidates. So just take your time, read. If you need some help, please ask the poll worker. So those are some of the biggest issues, but I'm not able to speak to like issue 1, 2, or 3 as they are on the, on the ballot, but they are down the list. So people, if they, to vote on those, they need to make sure they scroll all the way down, or make sure, the next page, and review your ballot. Make sure you vote the way you want to vote. Make sure you get down to the last page and it says review. Make sure you review everything that you've clicked.
That's the big thing. Make sure that you are reading carefully. I know one year the ovals were like offset just slightly, and you thought you were voting one way, and if you clicked on something, it actually was the opposite of what you were voting. So please make sure that you're reading that ballot well before you start clicking on things or circling in. I always go out to, it's a website, and of course right now I can't think of it, and I told you my mouse has a mind of its own and I can't click on it, but there's a website I go to every year because I always like to look at the ballot before I go to the polls.
Okay, so that website would be voterview.org.
That's it.
Voterview.org. They can also go on the Pulaski Clerk website, and where it says check your registration and information, they can click on that and it goes straight to voterview.org. So once they get to voterview.org, then they put in their first name, they put in their last name, and then they put in their date of birth, and it should immediately pop up, and it'll be all of the voting sites that they're able to go to. It'll tell you your your ballot number or something, and then down at the bottom, you scroll down to the bottom, it'll show you your sample ballot. But you are correct. People should do that. Make sure they go, make sure they look at their sample ballot before they actually go to the polls. So that way they're ready and they can push the buttons and already know their choices.
It's also a good way, and I'm still researching the issues that are on there this year too, but it's also a good way to go in and read the issues and actually do your own research on them. Because, if I tell people all the time, please do not depend on social media, even though I'm on social media. to give you all of your information. I mean, there you have to do your own due diligence on certain things. But when you look at the sample ballot, it gives you an opportunity, number one, like you said, to see how the presidential candidates are listed, to see who else is running. Because in a lot of places, we've only heard of who's on TV or the people that are popular, so to speak. So you have
we only hear about the mainstream candidates, right?
So you have a lot of candidates that are running that you've never heard of, that you may need to look at and go, wait a minute, this might be a better choice. But it gives you an opportunity to see who's there, to pull those names now and go and research each of those persons and to research those issues, so that when you do step into the ballot or step into the voting booth or vote, you're not confused about how you want to vote. It's sort of like you go click, 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 more, click, 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 done.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you go ahead and read ahead of time because you looked at the sample ballot, then you have an idea, of what you're going into or who you're going to be voting for. You have time to kind of make up your mind about them. What else?
Wonder, we have processed. My staff has processed over 23,000 absentee ballots, and we're still getting more of those applications in. I mean, they've been working 11 hours a day and on Saturdays trying to get everything processed and out to the voter. Mm-hmm. So of course, some people get them immediately. Some people, it might be a few days, and some people still haven't received their ballot. If anybody's out there and they did absentee ballot and they're having trouble, if they haven't received it, they need to call our office at 340-8336, 340-8336. So that way we can either help try to track it down or maybe do something else, because it's probably lost in the mail, especially if it has been sent out or supposedly sent out September 18th or 19th or something like that. It's time for us to figure out a new way for you to get something at this point, whether they come and pick it up from the clerk or whether we do something so they can at least take away their absentee status and go vote early. We also want folks to know that it's in this time, of course, you can still get an absentee application. You can still submit one. The last day is October 27th. But if they don't have any issues, if they are have been to the grocery store or like me coming to the office, it would be best if they would just make sure that they mask up and plan their vote and go early vote, just like you saying that you did or you're going to do, and take their snack and all that kind of good stuff with them, because that'll be the better way to get it done at this point in time. And we have things that are happening at the polling sites that are helping them. They have stylists that they can use. The poll workers are, wiping down and sanitizing the equipment, and face masks are being worn by the poll workers. So they're trying everything they can do to make sure it's a safe, clean voting environment for our voters, especially during this pandemic. And so I guess the other thing I wanted to say too, so if you have an absentee ballot out now, then go ahead and vote it. And you can bring your own ballot back to the clerk's office. We've got a drive-through, a return your ballot line. So that way you can stay in your car and return your ballot. And just make sure you bring your ID, just like you want to make sure you take your ID to the polling locations.
Okay. Now, if you're mailing it back in, we need to include a copy of our ID with it, right?
Yes. If you're mailing it back in, or even if you're bringing it back to the clerk's office, you need to have a copy of it in your packet. So it comes in a blue packet like this.
Okay.
But in this packet, then you get an election only envelope, and you get a return back to the clerk's office envelope, and then you also get a voter statement with directions on it.
Okay.
Okay, so they have to fill out the voter statement, put their birth date, put today, not today's date, put their birth date instead of today's date, and put their address and information on there. And then once they fill out the ballot, it goes in the ballot only envelope. And then the ballot only envelope and their voter statement plus a copy of their ID goes into this particular envelope with the yellow stripe.
Okay.
Which then they can either mail or they can bring it back to the clerk's office themselves. Okay.
All right.
All right. And so, you know, I would tell you, I had left the example over on the other side of the room, but this week we've just been getting this back.
Oh, okay.
And anybody that does this their vote will not be counted.
Oh, wow. So
if they don't do this,
I'll say, hold the yellow stripe back up one more time.
This is what needs to come out. It needs to be in this envelope, but you got to put your ballot in here and seal this up. Then you got to have your voter statement. Then you got to have a copy of your ID, and they all go back in this envelope. Those are the things you need to make sure that your absentee ballot is going to be counted. And all of the directions are on the back of here. I mean, down to the fact that it says, complete the voter statement. It's on the reverse side of this document. It says, place the voter statement form inside the return envelope number 2. And it says yellow in parentheses. So, I mean, it's giving you step-by-step directions on what to do.
Okay. All right. Please, 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 if you are using your absentee ballot, that you follow all of those directions. We want to make sure that every vote is counted. You know, we don't want to leave anybody out. You want to make sure that your vote is counted. So make sure it goes back in the return envelope with the yellow stripe. Just remember yellow stripe.
Just remember yellow stripe. Yellow stripe. Envelope number 2.
Number 2.
There we go.
Hopefully people have gotten it, and I hope that you don't have a whole bunch of them that don't do that. But like you said, you've already received a few. Hopefully from here on out, people understand the yellow stripe. Put the thing
exactly. Okay. You know, we have over 256,000 registered voters in Pulaski County. So, you know, and like I said, people are still trying to get an absentee ballot, which is their choice. You have 3 ways to vote: absentee, early vote, or on election day. But I'm just thinking, again, if you're like me, you go to work, you go to the grocery store, go ahead and just mask up and go ahead and early vote. So that way you don't have to worry about what's in what envelope. Then you can just get it done there by pushing those buttons.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I like that you emphasize mask up. So we make sure that we are masking up and that we are doing our social distancing. I know it'll be kind of hard because there's a lot of people that are standing in line, but make sure that you're getting that space. You know, we're outside and most people go, oh, we're outside. What could you catch? Keep your space. Because I'm making sure I'm 6 foot from you. So make sure that you have your mask on and keep it over your nose and your mouth. Oh my God.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it.
If I see one more person, why is your mouth just I saw somebody the other day literally with it just over their nose. I'm like, you know what? Just take it off. Why are you just having your nose? But I see chin ones. Everybody with the chin mask. I'm like, what is your chin gonna catch? Cover your nose and your mouth at the same time. All of this, not just this part. But I see so many people walking, and I'm gonna tell you now, I'm one of those folks that I will run from you. If I see you and you uncovered in some kind of weird way, and you making a weird noise, as I heard somebody was talking, I thought the man sneezed. I will go the other way.
You go the other direction.
Yes, ma'am. I'm serious. I'll get away from you because I don't want to catch nothing. I have underlying health conditions, so I try to keep my distance from people anyway. But if your nose is not covered or something is not covered and you're making weird noises, please do not come around me. So if we're standing in line and we're getting ready to vote, cover everything up just for the safety of everybody else, and not just for them, but for you too. Because we know that if we have older relatives at home, then we can always carry stuff back home and make them sick, and that could turn out bad for them. So make sure that you are masking up the proper way. You know, there you go. Demonstrate. See how covered, come on, Vanna White. See how covered it is. That is the proper way.
I'm with you because, you know, I don't want to take anything to my mother or I don't want my son to, and he, you know, currently works. I don't want him to bring anything home to me or my mother. So yes, you're exactly right. We got to take precautions in everything we do. But I wanted to just give the listening audience out there to something, a frame of thing to understand that in, you know, of course, in 2020 pandemic, we've had over 42,000 people, asked for an absentee ballot, but just know that in 2016, only 42,000 people statewide voted by absentee. Right now, Pulaski County is at half of what happened statewide in 2016. And so that's a big number for us. So I want you to be patient with our staff as well. I want you to know that they're working hard, so, we're all in this together. So, but have some patience.
Well, just on behalf of everybody, thank you all for all the work that you're doing. And I know that once this is over, you all can catch your breath and take a little break. Y'all have earned it. Because I noticed the post and see the different things, and it's like, I know they've been there they've been there 2 days worth. And I know it probably feels that way, but thank you all so much. We appreciate your dedication to making sure that everybody has a way to vote, and that you're working those absentee ballots and getting them out and getting them in, and that you're educating the public on what they should be doing, because, we can, I don't think we can say it enough this time around. And every year, voting has been important from the beginning, but it just seems like we're more intense and more urgent about it this year. But we might, make sure that people get out and vote, that they understand the process and they understand just how important it is. I mean, we have to do. I ain't gonna preach.
But you're right. It is exciting to see the folks who are wanting to vote. It is exciting to see when I went out there before I came in here to see the folks driving through and they're dropping off their ballots. Again, folks came up and actually are getting their ballots. They have on their mask and their shield, and they were getting their ballots, their absentee ballot, and they're out there on the courthouse lawn voting, but it's just fabulous to see everybody who's done it. And I'm not sure if you know of the numbers, but on even all those folks that stood in line for 4 hours, we really only had about 8,000 people who early voted on Monday.
Wow. And
then, of course, in 2016, for the same the first day of early voting, it was only 6,500 people who actually voted. Mm-hmm. And then on Tuesday, on yesterday, we had 9,000, a little over 9,000 who actually voted, early voted. So you can tell the numbers are certainly more than what we have, and people are certainly interested in making sure their voice is heard. And this is good. This is good stuff.
It's excellent. I kind of figure by midway, the numbers should be about 3 times that much. Because as it goes on, people have that mindset, I'm not going first. But over in the middle, folks will start getting out more. And then schedule, people's schedules change, and you have to make sure that you're setting aside time to be able to go and vote, especially when you're working during the daytime, and you have to either try to run and do it on your lunch break, or you're trying to do it period while you're working. So I think over in the middle, those numbers are going to probably triple a little bit, because more people are going to get out and more people are going to vote. And I'm like you, I'm glad that people are not afraid to go to the polls, because I was really, really worried about that in the beginning, because when, we know how bad the pandemic is, and I don't know the number for how many deaths we've had in Arkansas. And I'm be honest with you, I stopped keeping up with it because it was depressing me. So, but I know that played a part in people going absentee and voting absentee and saying, I'm not going to the polls this year because of the pandemic. So I'm glad to know that even though we are in a pandemic, people are still wearing their mask, and they're going out and they are standing in line and they're being patient, and they are still lining up to vote. That is amazing, because honestly, I was afraid that there was going to be so many people that wouldn't turn out because of that. So that's good to know that they are still coming out.
Yeah, that's good. They're still coming out. I had a senior moment. I was getting ready to say something else, but I guess I'll let you ask the question.
That's okay. We have those every once in a while. But no, I just had one. I had a question, and then I can't say it now. Oh Lord.
Oh, I was going to say that those early voting sites become what's called a vote center on election day. Okay. We have 12 early voting sites right now, and they will become what's called vote centers on election day. And that means that anybody, just like now, if you live in Jacksonville, you can come, and you work over in Little Rock, you can go to any of those early vote locations and you can vote, or vice versa. If you live in Little Rock and you work in Maumelle, or you work in Sherwood, you can actually go to that early voting location that's over there and vote. And so that's the same way with these particular locations are going to be vote centers on election day. So we're going to have our regular precincts, and then we're going to have these vote centers on election day. So I just want folks to know that we're going to have at least 117 polling locations on election day. So we've tried to, here in Pulaski County, we've tried to do everything we can to make sure that there's every opportunity for folks to be able to exercise their right to vote.
Okay, that is a great. Now I live in Saline County now, so I have like a million places to vote here, which is odd because when I lived in Little Rock, I had an assigned place that I could go to. Here is it's a whole list of places to go. So I looked at that and went, "Hey, there is no excuse. It's almost."
I'll have to look at that. I didn't realize they had a whole list of places. Maybe I can influence our election commission so we can do something like that. But go ahead.
I think it actually, to me, now this will be my first time doing it, but I like the fact that I don't have a specific place I have to go and vote, that I can move around and vote wherever I want to. And I thought at first, well, maybe it was just for early voting, but apparently that is just how it's set up. So I can go to any of the polling places here as long as I'm in Saline County and vote anywhere. So I like
that's
that.
Good. That probably means that they're using a lot of vote centers, which is good. So let me say about vote centers, even though that they are good things, and I like the vote center model, we also have to be cautious that it's not closing down polling sites in areas that could disenfranchise voters. Yeah. So got to be careful about that. Even we want the convenience of being able to go where we want to go, but we also want those folks who can't travel 20 miles or can't travel 15 miles to get there, that they can easily get to a polling location, because we want to make sure that we encourage the process of voting and not discourage the process of voting. So I'm not saying that's happening in Saline County. I'm not saying that's happening in Pulaski County, but I just want people to understand that there's a two-edged sword to vote centers, even though they can be a very good thing.
Okay. Now, I had my senior moment just thinking, because I had a question and it went somewhere left.
Well, let's see what else have I been asked about. I just want you to, so the deadline to request an absentee ballot is October 27th. The deadline for a person to bring back the ballot in person is November 2nd. The last day to early vote is November 2nd. Remember, we have to have everything's done by 5 p.m. on November 2nd. Of course, the polls will be open on election day from 7:30 to 7:30. If you are outside at 7:30 on election day and you have not voted, the poll judge will count you at 7:30. And I don't care if it's 200 people in line, those 200 people should be able to vote because you're in line at 7:30. Now, don't show up at 7:31 saying I'm one of those folks, because the poll judge is out there counting and they're trying to make sure they know who's in line at 7:30. So just want everybody to be aware of that.
Good. Okay, now I know what the question was. Say, for instance, we go to the poll and we experience some difficulty with voting, whether it be a challenge on our ID or it be whatever. Because I've read some stories, and these are in other states, and by no means is any of this happening in Arkansas. I don't know if anything happened in Arkansas, but I read an article earlier today about some people having trouble because they had on Black Lives Matter t-shirts or they had on Black Lives Matter masks. Just tell us what we should do if there's any trouble when we go to vote and somebody's telling us we can't, or there's any kind of intimidation or anything else going on. Is that something that you can speak about?
Sure. So let me say that I am told that we can wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts into the polling locations because it is not a candidate or an issue that's on the ballot. What I will say is right now is not the time to challenge what's going on, but because you're already challenging by going to vote. So just don't have anything that's gonna make any waves. If you can, I get it. You can wear what after that you can wear what you want to wear, but please try to make it as simple as possible so you don't get stopped. But you cannot vote for Terri Hollingsworth or vote for this candidate or vote for that candidate when you go into the polling location or on your mask. You cannot have it. You can't have, vote for Trump. You can't have vote for Biden. You can't, those things can't be on your shirt or on your mask. If you just happen to be one of those persons that's out working that day and you stop to vote, then you would definitely need to either put on another shirt if you have it, or turn your shirt inside out so that it's not being seen, because that's what's called electioneering, and that can't be happening in terms of what's going on, at the polling site. Now, if voters if they go and they feel that there's some kind of intimidation at, maybe somebody might be outside trying to keep them from voting, or I saw something, I'm not sure if it was Atlanta, I just saw something today where it was an actual police officer. Of course, they had, the gun and badge on, but then he had on a Trump mask, and some people felt like they were intimidated. That was in another state. So when you have something like that, that needs to be reported. You need to first report it to that poll judge, whichever location you go to. And then if you feel like that that's not doing anything, you need to make sure you do a formal written complaint with the State Board of Election Commissioners and also with the Pulaski County Election Commissioners. But you need to make sure that you go further. And if you really feel like somebody's on you or really intimidating your person in terms of, really close to you or trying to do something bodily harm, you need to call the police. You definitely need to call the police.
Okay. That is good to know. I'm actually reading a comment that somebody's making right now about, they live in Texas, so we can't really speak to Texas, but receiving 2 ballots and feeling like if they report that maybe their vote won't count. And when you were saying to make sure that you reported anything, I was looking at that going, yes, she just needs to report it. But I'm glad you brought that up, because like I said, I've read those articles and I've seen a couple of different reports in different areas about different things going on. And again, I haven't heard anything in Arkansas, but as well as I do, stuff can happen anywhere, anytime. And I want to make sure that we got some good information to the public on how to address those things if they do happen. So I appreciate you.
You're exactly right in terms of that. So in terms of, receiving 2 ballots or something, now it's possible that a person could ask for an absentee ballot. And then when they call and say that they haven't received it in 2 weeks, that, we've already, so we start sending out the other one. And then they get the one that they already received before. But the one that they received before, because you have called and said, well, I requested one 2 weeks ago and I didn't get it, what we do is you have to do a kind of a cancellation form or lost in the mail form. And so that way is that if that first one we sent out gets to you, it can't be used, nor can it be voted on, because then it would be what we call the spoiled ballot. Okay. Nobody's going to be able to receive 2 ballots and be able to vote 2 ballots. And they might receive it because our mail has some delay, but not because we're sending you 2 ballots on purpose. Okay. And so now we have had some instances, very few instances, where somebody who's older may have had a stroke or something, actually early voted and then tried to go on election day. Okay. And actually the system should catch you. It should mark if Terri Hollingsworth went, early voted, then if Terri Hollingsworth goes back on election day, it should say you already voted. But if I'm insisting that I did not, because I don't remember because of whatever happened, the stroke made me not remember some things, then they can vote a provisional ballot. And then we will, what will happen is that the election commission will then go through those provisional ballots and at some point in time to figure out, okay, has this person voted? Do we have an absentee ballot? Did they early vote or whatever? And if they didn't, if they don't see anything, then they'll go ahead and vote that provisional ballot. So we have a bunch of checks and balances in place where there's no voter fraud. That doesn't mean that, you never know what, people trying to do in this particular season that we're in terms of COVID and what we've, hear about the rhetoric going on nationally. But there shouldn't be any way that a person can vote twice in Pulaski County. Okay,
good. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you think that we ought to know going into it? I was trying to think of something we didn't cover, and I think we pretty much have covered everything.
I think we talked about security. I think we talked about COVID safety. I think we talked about patience. We talked about the absentee ballots. We talked about returning them. We talked about going on election day and early voting.
I think
I can't think of anything. Yeah.
Two of us need senior moments. I think we covered everything. So,
I'm going through my list. I don't see anything on my list that we didn't cover.
Okay, well, good then. Well, we got finished.
I don't know. I just think this is an exciting season. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you're saying?
I just think this is an exciting election season. I just want everybody to make sure they do whatever they can to go out and vote and exercise their voice. Be a part of this democracy. I don't care how you vote, just vote. We want to make sure that we do it, because I think that if we get to the point where we don't vote, then somebody might try to take this right away from us. So we want to make sure that we exercise this right at all elections, whether it's school board, whether it's certainly primary election, and just like this, the general election. Let's just go out and vote and have fun doing it.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to add that if you are someone that needs a ride, or there are several churches that will be giving rides to the polls, there are several people in town, and I don't have names to actually give out, but just make sure that you contact some of those churches. A lot of them are doing transportation to the polls, and they're helping people to get in and out. So if you need that, please get in contact with them. And again, Ms. Terri, thank you so much. I know you've been busy, lady. I know that you all are busy, and I appreciate you. We all appreciate everything you all are doing to make this a seamless event for us, to make it easier for everybody. I saw the other day where y'all were stationed outside the courthouse, and you had the tents, and I was like, man, they are serious about this. So
we're serious about it, and we want to make sure that everybody is serious and we can protect their vote and make sure they get it done. So yes, that's why we take it seriously and want to do everything we can to help the voter.
All right. Well, we're going to say thank you one more time. I appreciate you all. Thank you all for your hard work, continued progress. I hope that you all stay safe and healthy while y'all are working so hard. Make sure you're eating good and sleeping. And
okay, thank you so much. I'll do it. All right.
Now make sure you take care of yourself while you're doing this. But thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Plenty of water.
There you go. And we appreciate you all. Thank you all for tuning in today for another special edition of the Ladies Central Wonder Lowe. We appreciate you. Please go over to our page and like us if you have not on Facebook, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thanks again, Ms. Terri. We'll see you. Hopefully you'll get a break soon after all of this is over, and you and your staff can take a good breath and get y'all a good nap and be okay. But thank you all. Be safe and take care. All right.
Bye-bye.